I've explained my stance on Snezhko, but I want to clarify why I'm writing this. Despite publishing interviews with Snezhko's former students, I still get questions like, why call Snezhko a fraud and not Semen? We used his program as a basis, yet that's the situation. I have published many interviews with former students of Snezhko, yet people ask, why do you call Snezhko a fraud and not Semen? Based on his work, we conducted research, experiments, and even using his developments, it was his foundation. So why do you call him a fraud? We took his program, you and I were with him, and we took his program as a base, that is, let them even take the developments with it. We conducted research, experiments, and tested things, improving upon them, but in the end it was still his foundation. So why do you call him a fraud? I started working on the topic of stuttering in 2013. My first student had very good results. I realized that I can manage. I realized that I could help not just myself. With the help of the Etalon program, which I went through last winter in February 2012, but I can help other people. I can work effectively. Yes, I put in a lot of hours, a lot of effort, emotions and time, but I really enjoyed the process. I like the fact that I can. These are actually two slightly different things. So I started working in this direction. It started to work out. The people who reached out to me had, but I really saw positive dynamics. Some were even better than me, some were worse than me, but she was there. I really tried, I put my heart into it. First of all, these classes are quite expensive, and on top of that, they justified this doubt highly. Because there's a second point. The advertising that's presented, that is the source under which the effectiveness and efficiency of this drama textbook is poured, is, let's say, unbelievable. Not completely honest, but completely sincere. People don't get rid of stuttering through these subjects. But during this time, they can actually start other processes. They can feel it. Yes, the thing is, again, not everyone, because different studios have a completely separate review. Let's say, it's better. The best students of Roman Snezhko who were with him. Yes, but again, that's not everything. It's about half, maybe. From my data, from my feelings, from my perspective, it's not like that at all, and so on. So, those who communicate more or less decently on the third day, it's not a fact that they will continue to communicate like that later. In most cases, this doesn't happen later with other people when they go out. But it's a good indicator that, in principle, under certain circumstances with certain knowledge, you can, well, practically without any problems. Yes, somewhere you consciously control something and can convey to different people that or another piece of information, just as you want based on your feelings, on your emotions. Yes, even if you're controlling something here and there, even if you've studied something. For that, I tried to do my homework, but you can achieve some good positive dynamics. And somewhere don't even think about any crutches or exercises. There is no method for making a decision. Just speak, it's all very good. Yes, but Roman Snezhko decided to package his services. Thus, there is 100% cure for stuttering with a lifetime guarantee. In 3 days, once and for all. But that's not true. It was at that moment that I started to shed light on it. After that, I was called a fraudster on his website. So, I initially didn't say that it's a scam. I said that yes, the knowledge is good, useful, and really effective. Sure, sometimes things don't work out, but there is progress, and I have it, and other people do too, who are working, who understand that this is a learning process, who want to fully unleash their potential for normal, free, natural speech. So that's good, but getting to 100% in 3 days, that's not just funny. Yes, you have to strive for that. You have to reach for it. It just doesn't happen. So I ended up in the section for fraudsters, and during the class I received that information many times. So he repeated to me many times that all stutterers have the same problems, the same mistakes. How many times, Roman, did you repeat this to me? Probably about 20, 30 times for sure. It's all the same. You need to learn this, and this. Reinforce like this, like this, like this, like this. The problem is one, there's nothing from the papera, there are clamps. So how to deal with them, what to do with them. Basically, this is for most people, so that's general information. Yes? But you made it so that you decided to label me a fraudster who trained with you, who got the banner just for themselves and actually can't help other people in any way. Well, okay, that's a separate issue. I can understand. I guess if I were in your place, I would probably do the same thing. But again, I think I wouldn't be in your place because I would not deceive people. Then the claim, what is the fraud? I wouldn't deceive people saying, listen, I have this program that's so expensive. Yes, it costs that much because in 3 days, it completely and permanently gets rid of stuttering for anyone. So that's exactly how you positioned yourself, but probably even before, year 2017. 2017, 187, 217, 117, 117, 117, 117. 18, when I already had a lot of cases piled up, let's say from your former students who were far from feeling well. And this already shows that the dynamics can be different. Yeah. Then you started making responses little by little saying that, well, not everyone gets 100% help. But again, I'll honestly say right off the bat, hand on my heart, here is someone who got rid of stuttering 100% after your lessons, who, yes, I can't even say about you. In principle, I have already understood a lot about my stuttering and will understand even more. You shouldn't claim that you can completely get rid of stuttering in just 3 days, once and for all, because even if a person speaks more or less without stuttering, they still experience certain fears. He is given this speech like a smooth speech, he is given it in some strict way or with some kind of control. When he sits there like that watching, not getting distracted, I think only about the subject of speech. I think about what shouldn't be done when speaking. Whether it's a dissent or not, he's thinking about it. Whether the air is there or not, he speaks in short phrases to avoid stuttering. Yeah, so basically, in fact, he doesn't stutter. He even speaks normally. He even breathes. The air doesn't make a sound for itself. He doesn't fight this at all, but the stuttering remains if he thinks about it, if he consciously and intentionally does all this just to avoid stuttering. So he understands that the problem is still there even 6 months after you've worked with him. A year and a half, or 2 years later, he can speak more or less clearly, or even clearly. There's more to the whole situation, but somewhere he feels that, damn, if I don't get a grip on myself, I'm going to stutter. And that's why he starts to remember, starts to practice, starts to do something. Again, it's a solution. Is this a complete cure for stuttering? No. Partially, right? Almost completely, yes. But not a complete cure for stuttering. Roman Snezhko's program. I believe that it is truly one of the most effective ways to eliminate stuttering and overcome this problem. Among the existing methods, it's one of the most effective, but with its help, you don't completely get rid of stuttering. But the results of the students can vary, but the positive dynamics are quite stable. Unfortunately, the juicy horse Yamka is found among a minority of his students. There are fewer people who turn to him, but they get worse results in their lives than what we see in the videos, where the guys don't stutter. But that's already because you're working with a specialist. He tells you things. It's time to change. Basically, I charge you to speak freely. There's a good psychologist, and sometimes elements of hypnosis are used, but there's no other way here. If you're just going to pass on information, it won't work. Basically, I encourage you to speak freely. Somewhere it convinces you. There's a good psychologist, and sometimes even elements of hypnosis are used, even if it's not conscious, but there's no other way here. Here if you're just going to pass on information. So, well, just listen, look, you stutter, right? In order to fix this problem, you need to do this. This takes so much time. Look, I'll get the instructions, I'll do all the work myself, especially if it's about expressing the ordinary without stuttering. So look here, if you're interested in not stuttering, then please use these insights, this knowledge. I've explained everything. This will always be less. The effectiveness comes when a person is involved in the process, skillfully convincing you, so to speak, metaphorically putting their head on your head so that you start to see, feel, and experience the world as if through their lens, knowing that they understand this problem and you understand it too. So you kind of merge with the knowledge. It's a metaphor. I think everyone will understand me. Snezhko is great in that. When he started dealing with this problem, you have to understand that he himself didn't stutter. At that time, he was practicing yoga, meditation, and doing some research in general in one area or another. It's not the point. It just so happened that a friend of his, a client probably, who had taken some other courses with him on yoga, well, in general, he has various courses here, and her child was already stuttering. She didn't know what to do with him, so they went to doctors, speech therapists, psychologists, and nothing helped. And she's doing great. She started to understand at a young age that the problem was global and serious. Maybe she saw in some videos how people stutter, adult people, right? And he started looking for a solution, so basically she reached out and he began to catch on in that direction. This means that Roman Fishko completely copied all of his base there, or all his knowledge. From the materials, from the educational and methodological materials, and Yulia Borisova's guidance, it's not quite like that. Yes, when he started to grasp it, when a person gets tied into a new topic, when he begins to actually look for solutions outside, when he understands that what was before, if it's effective but not very effective, it means you can do better, you can dive deeper into it. He starts digging, starts to excavate, begins to gather, systematize, and analyze various information. For example, regarding adequacy, applicability, effectiveness, and so on. Again, conducting various experiments to avoid being unfounded, so there's already some specificity involved. Naturally, before him, the problem of stuttering was more or less uncovered. This is not just about Yulia Borisova, by the way, she's doing great too, as she dedicated her life to this as well, but at that time she mainly worked only with adults. They had a center where people stayed in an inpatient setting. They were being treated for stuttering. So it was more or less a disease named, and there was such a technique mainly, but at the core of Yulia Borisovna's program was the technique of reconstructive speech. So this means that we don't stutter on open syllables. That's how it is if you speak like that, by the way, for the same reason you mostly don't stutter. When we sing, when we argue, when we shout, like, what did you do? How could you? Yes, because we really have this base of reconstructive speech. We can't stutter, we won't, and that's a good thing. That is, this is already a normal discovery. That is, it's not that, a bad technique. It's just a basis for everything. And he just created this foundation, took something from somewhere else and started refining it. Yulia Borisovna Nekrasova. She conducted her classes a few years before him. She closed this project, so they had a project with adults. And then, as I read on the internet, if people one way or another have weak dynamics in their lives after their courses, yes, they considered it to be weakly effective. So they decided to close it down, didn't refine anything, which was a mistake. They could have refined all of this because it was worth it, because they were close and to the goal. Although they weren't as close as Roman Snezhko turned out to be in the end, they were still quite close. They also discovered some fundamental postulates, and you can't argue with them. There are some basic concepts. And what Nekrasova discovered, yes, she did that. But that doesn't mean it can't be used anywhere else later. Sure. Especially considering that she froze it. Yes, by the way, about Skoblikova, she's a student of Nekrasova. She focuses on the advantages. She only works with children since she also tried working with adults. But, you say, and that everything is much more complicated, with all the consequences that come from it. But we have to give credit to working with children. She works fairly well with Nekrasova's system. For example, it's still not fully refined, but it's a good foundation. So, when Roman Snezhko started, he took it as a foundation. Yes, as for her standard, this is already the future standard of knowledge that was brought by this woman, Nekrasova. Then, somewhere in the early 2000s, he published his methodology, or rather, not even a methodology. The basic rules are free in a way, but then I realized that there are people who just find even the basic postulates difficult to understand. Some get it, while for others it's hard to grasp. Yes, and here he already understood that individual work is needed in any case. Individual solutions, work analyzing feedback. Reviewing what a person has absorbed, what isn't their own, meaning it's not just about taking the material like this, reading it and getting rid of it. That's it, I've done everything. That's the minimum. He realized that in order for people to get more effectiveness from his knowledge, from his developments, basically from his program, he started packaging all of this into individual sessions. First into group classes, which ran from 2006 to 2009. About 15 to 20 people would come to his seminars, lectures, and at that time the course cost 20,000 rubles. It was a group session for one day, and after some time he realized that it wasn't working well. Yes, it's a well thought out thing, he explains it well. Yes, he's doing great, as he provides a more or less small amount of knowledge based on the work he's dedicated several years to. So, it's been about 10 years, and he has his own forum there, by the way. He wrote a lot, opened thousands of topics, and described various processes. Well, of course, he didn't share direct life hacks, but he posted a lot of information online regarding the topic of stuttering. He deserves a lot of respect for that. Boss. There can't be another. He probably did more for stuttering than anyone else, really, out of all the centers. Yeah, not to mention the speech therapists they just trained, and only at the very edge did they hear something, got involved. Well, fine, let's leave it at that. So he actually started to develop. He realized that group sessions weren't needed. Back when I was still stuttering a lot in 2009, I saved up those 20,000 rubles, called him, I was ready. It was just before the new year. I was like, yes, finally I'm going to start working on this, but his manager told me that the project had been closed. There's another thing, that there won't be more group sessions because, well, due to their low effectiveness with a number of students, and it was clear, because before that, the person was literally haunted by the nightmare of stuttering. Every day for many years, it just couldn't be any other way, we just dove in. It's a complex problem, and such a challenging solution shouldn't just be about saying, okay, let's go, you can handle it. No. It might be the case that you can't handle it. So, after that, he introduced a 3-day course, which became a more powerful, effective, and substantial individual course compared to the 1-day group session. I don't remember exactly, but I think he held it for about 3 to 4 hours, maybe even 6. People sat for half a day, basically. 3 days for 6 hours each, so in total it adds up to 18 hours. Let's say half of that time his students were doing roughly the same thing, but they were doing homework that they worked on at home. But on the first and second day, he explained for about an hour or two. He really put in the effort, tried hard, even though he sometimes acted a bit silly, but he himself didn't stutter. Yes, and unfortunately, some processes are just unclear to him. But he didn't bother to figure it out. So what's the mistake? Yes, we all have our Elenas and mistakes, but he understood the core that he was conducting his classes, that it wasn't false. There is some kind of dynamic, as several students have already gone through him, but none of them have gotten rid of their stuttering. He couldn't help but understand that what time he has a sort of flexible guarantee, and the people who were with him. But then something didn't work out. They call him because there's no one else to call. They paid the money, so they call him. And by the way, at the time of 2009-2010, his 3-day course cost 60,000 rubles. So he started from that benchmark. Well, then he wrote that with each passing year, whether it's inflation or not, there are more developments, more solutions, and more time he will actually spend to create as many effective solutions for people as possible. The price will be going up. To create effective solutions for people, the price will keep rising. And that's how it turned out. So 60, 80, 100, 120,000 rubles. There was even a jump to 150, I think, in 2017, but then he let it go. Because there is already a reason for that, and I won't relax. So, he understood that the people who went through him stutter. Some stutter a lot, while others are pretty much the same as before. Right, but some have a good positive dynamic, and he decided, meaning he had two paths, but some have a good positive dynamic, and he decided, meaning he had two paths. Either leave everything as is, or they're chicky bomboni. I have 100% positive dynamic with all my students. All my students completely get rid of their problems once and for all in 3 days. And then they just don't think about it at all. Or, after that, change his advertising slogan, change the positioning of this educational, not therapeutic program. Yes, to a fairer, more appropriate, more truthful, Moel, there, overcoming stuttering, but not. Percentages in 3 days, all with 100% guarantee. It's just that, yes, we are launching, meaning it could be described either the process of getting rid of stuttering that we initiate, taking this time to achieve certain positive results. What really can happen in the last days is that stuttering can occur, and that will be normal. It will, in a way, be justified and help with that. Again, I'll repeat, for 100 times, people have had years of stuttering experience where they don't know what to do. So, it's really possible to stutter in the last days, and that's going to be normal. It will, in a way, be justified and help with that. Again, I'll repeat for the 100th time, people have had years of stuttering experience where they don't know what to do, where they didn't stutter on practically every word, but that was if there were difficulties with the languages. Yes, they were replacing words, they were going silent, and they were haunted by their stuttering every day. Of course, Vasha, you won't have those 100% results in 3 days for anyone, no matter how hard you try. But you can launch speech better, like being more confident in that direction. Yes, it can be done calmly. So it turns out another accusation. It's not so much an accusation, but a claim. What I basically said before 2014, before I was labeled fraud on his site, there, RASP or standard, I don't remember. That's it. And actually that's why I later also posted information that he is a fraudster, but not because he doesn't know anything. He completely deceives people. He doesn't provide anything. His educational program is absolutely worthless and a scam, and so on and so forth. And because of these two facts, the price is 1, and the advertising is not entirely truthful, up to 2. And the third factor is that he labeled me a fraud on his site, that I don't know anything, I have my own code, my own type of stuttering, which was not shorter than the type, revealed there with the help of some key I set. It didn't stand. No, that's not it. This is really nonsense that has come up later. Yes, because of these 3 reasons. I also set that up. He, the fraudster, started to provide specific reasons, arguments, and results from some of his students who were with him 5 years ago, 2 years ago, or even 6 months ago. It's similar to the process of gathering a wide range of information. In fact, it's not just that. People themselves proactively reached out to me, expressing their interest and enthusiasm. They provided valuable feedback and insights, which was incredibly helpful and encouraging. They either wanted to practice with me or just chat. Like, why am I able to do it, but they can't? So let's summarize a bit. The standard program is not a complete scam. This is truly one of the best programs available in the English-Russian market. I can't believe what I'm saying, because in the English context there in the US from Europe, students reached out to me who know English and their situation is even worse. That is, if we have Orly there, the Center for Pathology, and neurorehabilitation of Ricci, where, well, they give something more or less correctly, although in principle I do not agree with the general concept, because there are reasons for it. So there, either something similar or worse. Either the old way of speaking that you always have to talk like this, or at least for the first while. So in Europe and the US things are even worse. Well, okay, that's not the point. My program took the foundation, of course, from Roman Snezhko. Why did I start doing this? First of all, because I realized that knowledge is useful, but it has a kind of packaging. Its value is somewhat overestimated by the creator himself. The fact that he lies there. Well, that's fine. But it's not just about the deception. It's because people are losing money because of this. Despite my respect for him as a creator, as someone who laid the foundation, wow, I gathered a lot from life, you know. I was figuring things out, testing, experimenting, working with people, and seeing some positive dynamics. After all, his students had him, so you can't argue with that. He remained in a way connected, but there's just no denying it. Yeah. But the fact that he stuck to his guns, and even after many revelations, he still wouldn't say, "Guys, forgive me. I overestimated things earlier. I knew that people were calling me, but I thought they were at fault, when in reality, we are the ones to blame." Both are just nonsense. My program doesn't eliminate stuttering in 3 days with a useful guarantee once and for all. So, no, there's nothing like that basically at all. Yeah, if he had done that, there wouldn't have been any questions for him at all. So, well, the price, maybe he was sick about it, either this one or that one, he left the same price. That wouldn't have been a question. Although, if he had said it like that, then he would have. And he wouldn't have lowered the price if he had really positioned his services that way. So, in general, what are they worth? Discussing the various legitimate and truthful nuances. And he wouldn't have lowered the price if he had really positioned his services that way. So, in general, what are they worth? Discussing certain legitimate and truthful nuances. Then he would have had far fewer students in different presentations. That is, in principle, if you say, as I said, that yes, you can get carried away. Yes, you can have different dynamics. Yes, a lot depends on the student. Yes, complete deliverance, especially in a few days. No one ever achieves that, so a person starts to think, aha, for example, yeah, but how much does he gain and what can he get? But at least you'll tell him the truth. You won't be dodging the issue. And it's like pouring information into people's ears that simply doesn't have a solid foundation. Like there's no real elimination of the issue. Yeah. So that's being kept quiet, but the advertising is like, come and get rid of it, conquer everything, like completely, you know, for the students. To get rid of it and then live a free life. Even though he must know that it's because he's being called. When I had classes with him back in 2012, I think he only had few students before me at the personal meeting. I haven't measured those that were on the video yet, but it seems like there have already been several dozen. You know, there were about 5 or 6 cases on video for several years before me. So maybe during those 3 days someone did call him, even if it was just 1 or 2 conversations, and he would tell each of them the same thing, like, listen, I told you this, this, and this. I told you that this and this. and he would go out on the balcony to smoke and make plans. That is, he explained to everyone what he was telling, and I understand that I have already heard it now. This is the principle. He provides information to everyone. There are some individual analyses, but the foundation is the same. Even some specific cases are based on the knowledge I heard him talk about. It's the same thing, although in some places it is word for word and you can't really say otherwise. Especially after all of this, you can't say that he gave each person some individual key or a special code. There was nothing like that. The same thing, but not word for word, although somewhere word for word cannot be said. Moreover, after all this, it cannot be said that he inserted some kind of individual key and Snezhko's coupon key there, some kind of chip code. There was no such thing. Basically, these are just elementary knowledge, like solutions or developments, right? But essentially, they are common for the majority. That's it. Well, good night, I guess. Actually, there was a question that came in recently. Some information suggesting that Snezhko was a student of Skobelikov and Nekrasov, but he was not that student. So basically this is a misconception, and it breaks down the chronology of events. Who has achieved what, who deserves what, and who has exaggerated things. But if Yulia Borisovna Nekrasova saw the dynamics of her students and understood that there was no improvement happening, that there wasn't even a consistently good result for most, then she chose a different path. She understood the dynamics of her students and realized that there was no improvement happening. Yes, even if there is no consistently good result of the majority, she chose the path. Just closed the project, but there was no way out of school. I hope to continue the project in this regard because there are some problems and obstacles there. And even if a lot is being achieved, we need to fight against them. Because otherwise it's either you or them. There are simply no other options. But he chose this path, positioning himself from the very beginning, and we need to support him until the very end. He holds on until the end and says that no one has completely freed themselves from the languages yet. Oh, by the way, yeah, the video is going to be long. All right, let's see who is interested in this quarantine of ours. It wasn't there before. Snezhko introduced this concept after I started getting a lot of interviews with his former students who stuttered quite a bit. I mean, I haven't met anyone yet. I've been in touch with about 36 of his students. Yeah, even those who were in the video, they said they got rid of it 100%. No one has gotten rid of it 100%. The information is 100%. I guarantee that this is how it stands, hand on heart. I stand by this. I personally checked it, so I take responsibility for these words. Yes, there was some positive dynamics, but no one has completely gotten rid of stuttering, at least not yet. People have started to understand more about what stuttering is. It can't just be fixed with some tricks. For some, it worked quite well for a while, but no one has completely eliminated their stuttering. Well, so there was a warranty issue. About 2 years ago he appeared. For what purpose? So that Roman Snezhko could justify the poor results of his students, like they started stuttering because they didn't reach out to me. Because they didn't reach out to me and unfortunately caught this disease from him. Again, the ability to come up with nothing, that's just ridiculous. It's nonsense. They reached out to us already with a stuttering problem. And not just like that. They were with you about 5 years ago. Roman, after you, they never got rid of their stuttering. Yeah, there was some positive dynamics. Yeah, in some cases, after about 2 to 3 weeks, a month, a person was speaking more or less. That doesn't mean they didn't have any stuttering at all. That doesn't mean he didn't have any stuttering. But the share of the nightmare he lived in for was smaller. So it turns out that the people who reached out to me, they didn't exactly give me interviews. Yeah, some of them worked with me. Some just wanted to chat because they had been with you too. They paid you money as well, but they saw that the results were different for them. He can stutter in every situation. This might shed some light. Now you're going to twist it so that he was with you, but he was with you even further back. Nothing. So people are interested. They're doing great. So you can't just shut their mouths and say, all right, guys, only come to me. Don't reach out to anyone else. Even if you stutter, if they freeze up, I'll tell you the same thing I said before, and then I'll come up with something new. Here's the thing about the phone. Look, you're the fool with you, well, and then so on. But if you reach out to someone, then I'm basically taking away all my guarantees, taking away all my responsibility. That's just silly. That's what scammers do. You did that for nothing. People just understand it. I highlighted this. There was a video where I shed light on it, and I wrote about it somewhere on the website. So I even have this match in my post because I just can't wrap my head around how someone could come up with such a cheap mindset, but pointless, you know? What are we going to do? But it seems like I did a good thing for stuttering to help develop the topic. That is, I even have this match in my post because I just can't wrap my head around how I can come up with such a cheap but useless idea, you know, that we will. But it seems that the stand did good for stuttering to give for the development of the topic. Why does Gniluka need this? After you, people started stuttering. They didn't contact others, so they were in quarantine, stuttering. Then my videos appeared, showing some students with you had minor improvements but didn't overcome stuttering. They tried to resolve things with you for about 2 or 3 years, but it didn't work out. People didn't reach out to anyone else, so theoretically they were in quarantine, but in reality they were stuttering in your quarantine, not even thinking about reaching out to someone. And then bam, my videos come out, bam. Information comes out that there are already a few students who were with you and who, yes, may have had some positive dynamics here and there, but they didn't get rid of their stuttering. And moreover, having a serious speech problem, with speech basically, with psychology, with thinking, yes, because stuttering affects their whole life. So they're feeling bad, really bad, and you can't help them at all. So this whole series of situations, yeah. What people see, well, listen, dude, just tell it like it is, you know? Exactly how it really is, because I have nothing to make up. I don't need to lie, I don't need to deceive, I'm not interested in that, because I used to stutter a lot myself. For me, stuttering is not just a business, entrepreneurship, you know, where the main thing is money, advantage to conscience. Yes. I really put my heart into this. I tried to describe the situation as truthfully as possible. What could be, for example, is to what level you can develop your speech, how it should be, considering the various circumstances, taking into account the previous negative experiences of the person who stutters. I have nothing to hide. But you're lying, it's specifically you. False statement. This quarantine has appeared. Damn, yeah, this is complete, I don't know, complete, it's just trash, some kind of. But people aren't falling for that, because you see that after you, people start stuttering. While being in your quarantine, even before they called my number, before they even watched my videos, yeah, it doesn't take a few months. If only you had a connection with them, but you don't have that connection. So, it turns out your quarantine, it's all gone. Don't touch everything. Everything, what's your quarantine? And in your quarantine, your students start stuttering. And then you say that after 2 to 3 years, when they come to me or to other specialists, suddenly you show up and you say that the quarantine is over and these people are stuttering. Yeah, and they are stuttering because they came to you. Because as soon as they reached out to you, the quarantine just falls away because they did something wrong. Yeah, in this quarantine, everyone has already started stuttering. I don't know, idiot, it's clear, this situation, I don't know how else to get this across to you, but why this is already the 4th complaint. So the first is the price, the second is the lie, the third, the fact that you called me a fraud who knows nothing, can't do anything, and doesn't understand anything. And it was like some key to being unlocked. Then I filmed myself as you, Krotin, when I started talking to other people who stutter. And the 4th is actually your quarantine. Yeah, what's the point of that? That is, these are real claims, because instead of that is for you to improve the situation, he analyzed it competently. So, you should be telling people the real truth. You start making excuses, you keep digging yourself deeper, you're burying yourself as a specialist, as an expert, and despite the fact that you've developed quite a good program. Yeah. one of the best among the currently existing ones, people are starting to have a negative attitude towards you. I hinted to you before, suggested it somewhere between the lines, somewhere openly, but I said it directly. This is Roman Alexievich, but he says, and as it is, somewhere. But you can lower the price, even forget about it. Just don't exaggerate the potential of the educational program. There will be much less negativity, there will be more positivity, and for everyone too. You're like a hero, you're doing great, you've dedicated your life to this, and you're not lying. But these actions of yours, yeah, I understand that they're not just accumulative, they're really unnecessary. Yeah, because it could have been done without this. I won't go into the specifics of this business. We want such elementary concepts like not attracting people through deception to such a harsh extent. Their speech is evaluated at home. They were sad about losing the 150. They go home and their speech is evaluated. I know there are growth in friends. It's a shame. Well, it's a total loss because that has happened too. And those people have reached out to me as well. Yeah, they were sad that they lost that 150. Yeah. No way, just wow. Well, it's not just like that. They really were gaining knowledge, working on it. Yeah, it could have been done at least cheaper for starters. And secondly, not to deceive. And thirdly, it would have been possible to create a course for some, not for everyone, but a bit more. Well, there, 5, 6, 7 days. Yeah, that's in the shadow case. And if a person gets something out of the course, then you explain it to them over the phone. It's the same as what was in the course. Yeah, it might be in different words somewhere, but it's a bit off. It's better to work closely. Till then, actually, just to separate it. For example, I've divided my courses at the moment into basic and advanced. Even in the basic one, I'm trying to pack in as much psychology as possible. All those analyses, the subtle nuances, yes, the answers that are needed to develop properly moving forward. But the advanced course, it lasts not just 4 or 5 days, but 10 days over the course of a month. All those analyses, the subtle nuances, yes, the ones that are needed, the answers that are necessary for proper development moving forward. But the advanced course lasts not just 4 to 5 days, but 10 days over the course of a month. And it's especially relevant if there are some difficulties, not stuttering, where a person really stumbles on every word. It's about him. It may take more than 3 days to temporarily process these stages. So you can actually work with a person for a whole month and only after a week. Or 2, will they start to really get the hang of things? That can happen too. And if it's a really tough case like stuttering, then of course, due to their previous experience, a person might not immediately see good, remarkable progress or even any progress at all. But you need to work through it with him. So he needs to learn to think. He needs to learn to think, to listen to what Alexander is saying and to analyze his own speech activity. He starts to speak and express what he does, what he doesn't do, so that I can understand what's going on in his head. If a person gets stuck, it's like a little monkey is playing around because, what he thought was like, I don't know what to do. Okay, I'll just go with the habit, like selling, pretending to be David. And that's one thing. But if he starts saying, I started this, and that, and there are traumas, sound talking about some coefficients, this was done, that was done for that. I worked on this, yes, here I felt one thing and here I felt another. Yes. And also for a more detailed selection, more thorough analyses, lead to better results. Because you start to delve deeper into this problem, you begin to mix things up more on your own and understand that there's a phrase there, I can't get anything right, and when I do a complete overview, for example, I manage to do this and that. I think, okay, I try to do it, but it doesn't work out. Then I keep track of it and try. So it might seem very difficult, yes, but if it's necessary, if the stuttering is severe, then there's no other way. You have to work on it somehow, right? Yeah, right. But you have the classic 3 days for getting rid of stuttering. I wish I had that kind of level. Yeah, I understand that you have some good cases on camera. Yeah, I'm talking about the 3-day ones. some for the most part, but about half of your students, even less. And most of them, rather all of them, don't speak the same way with anyone else. So that was on camera. It was with you, right? It was in a good state. By the way, in a similar state, like after seeing a psychologist again, but here it's more because of the principal and the exhibitions. And you started talking to him. He knows, and you know you have problems. He's not shy about it. I'm not saying that's better. A student might have fewer stutters. I'm not even shy about my stutters on purpose because I don't have, no, I'm not saying that I've gotten rid of my stuttering because that's not the case. Yes, I'm striving for that, but I'm not working on it anymore. Basically, it's a good thought to speak without blocks, even without pauses, without tension. Yes, I can, rarely, have some blocks slip through. I just worked on what to do with them and I don't bring them to a standstill. I already have this knowledge. I can do it. I've been doing this for 5 years, but I really focused on it. 2-3 weeks, and that's it. That's good. From there, it can just be on an intuitive level. That's how it should be. But I'm not saying that this is my best student. But unfortunately, the kind of results I have are achieved by not even half of the people you have, but at most about 20%, just like with all the students. And I'm ready to stand by these words. If you take all this salad of experience, my speech practice, it's about my communication in different situations. Stress is calm with adrenaline. Without equality, there are at 3 meters. How many paths there were, how many times there were blocks, how many words were there for me, and so on, and similar things. I know that I will carry my conversation, so I confidently declare it for all to hear. That is, in the end, I want to tell you about the standard programs in principle. An effective program. But, since Roman Artsevich himself did not stutter, he did not work it out to the end. As he should have, and he stopped. Well, in my opinion, he stopped working in that direction, because, unfortunately, the students who come to me after 7 or 2 years, about 10 students, have approached me. They are given roughly the same thing, and I see and understand that he has stagnated in his development. If before he was making some progress, yes, but now he hardly provides any new valuable information. Here, you need to develop, Roman, in order to actually move this topic closer to complete freedom, to your dream, to your business, to your advertising. God willing, if it turns out that way after some time, after a year, 6 months, or a few years, if you refine your program through your efforts, experiences, experiments, and new developments, because without them, it's impossible up to stops. Actually, the ideal is where a dictation is fully realized in 3 days. And then you'll need to monitor the dynamics of your students for at least 6 months. At least 6 months, and only after that do you say that you've freed a person from stuttering. The main thing is whether the person has gotten rid of stuttering or not, because what happens with you is not the same as what someone else manages to do more or less well. For a week, that's good, that's wonderful, but what about the rest of his life? He pays for the hope that a person wants, that he will not only learn to be okay with you, but also in the near future after you. Because in inspiration, where there is some effect towards the goal, faith appears. Yes, that's definitely true. Yes, that's a positive effect, but even after a month, a year, or 2 years, a person needs to communicate throughout their entire life. You need to understand this, yes, and make bold statements, like guaranteeing 100% correction of stuttering, but at least after 6 months to a year. This is if a person proves that indeed in their feelings they are not just avoiding public speaking. So it's not that he didn't do anything, but internally he has gotten rid of this problem. No, they think I don't have it. They're just being stupid. Everything's fine. Any person wouldn't even doubt it. If something works out, then maybe about the fact that you worked for 3 days and then after that you didn't continue. You didn't even call. And for 6 months, even a year, he didn't stutter at all. I forgot about this problem. And then, after some time has passed, Take and Write specifically published this news. So, look, indeed, getting rid of stuttering in 3 days, but this doesn't come with a lifetime guarantee yet. because it's only been 6 months or a year since then. So who knows what his speech will be like in 6 months or in 5 years, right? Where will he have a breakdown? This is the reason, this is the complaint. You try to say in advance that a person has gotten rid of it, but how do you know what will happen to them next? Yes, actually. But you position your services 100% guarantee of getting rid of stuttering for life, and they charge a lot of money for it. This is the complaint, you see? And if you don't work through this, I could just not talk about it, but I still appreciate your experience and contribution to the topic of stuttering. Just from a human perspective, it would be more honest without advice. People appreciate this, and there will be less negativity for you. It will be better for you, and your training programs will be better too. The reviews will be brighter, more vibrant, and positive. Let it not be 100%. Yes, but show real results, that there are bad results and there are good stats, because you are trying anyway, you put your heart into it, and you're not deceiving anyone. What about the claim of 100% cure for stuttering in 3 days, once and for all, with a lifetime guarantee?